Welcome. All right, so you already know some stuff about me anyway, so maybe you can skip that. But that's my first Gunpla and my most recent finished build. So about 13 or 14 years apart there, basically.
That was 13 years ago that you did that?
Yeah, that, from what I remember anyway, that was the first kit that I owned, and as you can see, just did some pen aligning on it, just with a micron pen, I think, and then it's just stickers and all of that.
That's from Wing?
Yeah, it's just an old high-grade Wing kit. I think those kits came out something like 95 or 96, somewhere around there, and I probably got that around 2000? 2001? I don't know, somewhere around there, basically. And then this one is the one that I just recently finished, maybe a month and a half ago or so, like that. So just some progression there. I've been building for a while, but off and on. Like, if you've seen some of my videos, you know that I've talked about that before. That like during high school, I didn't really build that much, and then like college, not really that much. There were some times when I snapped some kits after a trip to Japan where I bought a bunch of stuff. And then just my YouTube channel, starting that was just like a year and a half ago, and you've seen a bunch of the videos, I'm sure.
Yeah, you made a big update, right?
Yeah, you mean like
the 2.0?
Oh yeah, sure. So yeah, this is just the art that I have for it now. Planning to, or not planning to yet, but I would like to do a 2.5 or 3.0 update everything again, because like it hasn't really been that long since I've been using this, but it's been a lot of videos in that time. So like I figure putting out like maybe over 100 videos under the 2.0 design, then maybe better change it up.
What do you figure like the next step up is? Like,
I mean, it's just changing the design a bit, just to keep it fresh.
Sure.
So that's pretty much it. Like, I don't know at the moment. I don't know of any sort of changes I'm going to make too much to the actual content.
Yeah.
Like I said, I do want to start using the GoPro more for like point of view building and painting videos and stuff like that. But that's something I wanted to do and I've talked about doing for a while already, really. I just haven't really gotten too much into it yet. It's kind of one of the double-edged swords about having a sponsor.
Oh yeah.
It's great to get a lot of stuff for free, but then like that's a lot of stuff to build and review and all of that. So it keeps me quite busy.
And then you're like kind of tethered to that.
There is a sort of obligation to do that first, right? My sponsor's really cool. Actually, they don't like push me like, hey, where's that review? Like that, not at all. But I figure like the point of getting the stuff right away is to show it right away.
Right.
So there is that sort of aspect to it that's not always easy to deal with. Anyway, so I don't really need to introduce this since you know already. Mobile Suit Gundam started in 1979 by Yoshiyuki Tomino, who also directed the most recent series as well.
Oh,
did you know that?
I didn't know.
They had two seasons running, two different series running at the same time, Build Fighters and then Reconquista NG.
Right.
And then he directed Reconquista NG, which did not do very well. But
yeah, I was gonna say I've heard mixed things about it.
Yeah. It's, I think, has much more of a negative following than positive.
And what is the deal with Build Fighters? Because I haven't watched it all yet, and it seems like when I go out and I see kits from Build Fighters, it's like Gundam across like different eras or like lines.
Mm-hmm. So it's a story. I mean, in the story, I don't know how much you've seen of the story, but it's very meta in that it's people building like custom Gunpla kits to use in sort of a battle system, like virtual battle system. So like all of the kits like that exist in reality exist in that anime as well. So except like in real life we have kits like this is from that series.
Yeah.
We have kits from that series, but like those kits don't exist in the show because that'd be a little bit too weird. But anyway, so yeah, what they're doing like in the show is taking kits that are already out and like customizing those to use in the battle. Yeah. And then so what we get in the real world is kit versions of those kits. So technically those kits are like other kits are different, 1 to 100 scale or 1 to 144 scale. Those technically are kind of 1 to 1 scale because they're kits of kits.
Yeah.
So it gets a little bit confusing there, kind of, but it's interesting anyway. So there's over 20 different TV series and movies in all. I haven't seen them all.
I haven't either.
But I've seen quite a bit of them, most, but there's still quite a few series that I haven't seen. There's quite a lot of it.
Chances are if it aired on Cartoon Network or Toonami, I definitely saw it.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of stuff that didn't air on there, and I just saw it out on my own.
I think that's the case for a lot of us Westerners in the hobby. We've seen a lot, like Seed, Wing, G Gundam, 8th MS Team.
I watched 0083.
00.
I have
0083, that's good.
on DVD.
Sure. So like those, but the nice thing about it is that like there's a lot of them share like very, very similar kind of storyline, but there's enough of a variation between different series and eras and different universes that it's kind of something for everyone. You know, like some people really like this stuff more than other stuff, and some people like
some like the actual like war drama, and others like the kind of like
more anime style kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's the nice thing about it is that even if you're not into like big super robots, then you can just watch something like 8th MS Team or even 0083 is a little bit more grounded.
Yeah, it's more.
So that's kind of nice. So what Gunpla is just I forget what the word is for mashing the words together, but Gundam plastic model.
Portmanteau, or it's a French word.
Yeah, something like that for when you put multiple words together. A mix actually. It's kind of a double that because it's Gundam plus Plamo, and Plamo is already a mix of plastic model, so it's kind of like 3 words mixed into one there. And then about the scales and grades, there's obviously many different scales. Many different grades, not that many scales, really. Here's some of the main ones: 160, 100, 144, and then non-scale, which would be like SD stuff. And there is 148. 148. That's like what the mega size is. Those are pretty much the only scales that are really available. For the models anyway, figures and stuff are technically non-scale, but they are. If you measure them, they would fit to a certain scale, but they're not labeled with any scale on the box. The figures and stuff. Have you ever bought any figures?
I think I have in the past, like probably back when I was in high school.
Yeah, like way back. Like
I didn't get kits because like one, I couldn't find them anywhere.
Sure.
I wasn't ordering them back then.
Right. Obviously. Yeah.
I would just get what they carried in stores because at the time, Gundam was airing pretty regularly.
Yeah. Same, and I eventually tried branching out, getting some stuff off eBay as well. And I got a few things off there. One time got burned by a seller that just never sent what I bought. It's like sent a money order and just never got anything. So here's just a quick rundown of the scale, which you probably know anyway, but there's the super deformed, high grade, master grade, real grade, perfect grade, mega size are just some of the most common ones. Super deformed just being, again, not to scale, more of this cute kind of very small, simple kits, a lot of hollows in them. So not really the best for if you want to make something like super detailed and like accurate. But then the high grade will be just kind of your most basic line, right? Where obviously we get the most kits out of that line. Master grade is larger, more complex, like the goof there, and then the buster there on the top are master grades. So larger scale. Master grades are always 1/100 scale. High grades can be either 1/144, 1/100, or 1/60. So they can be in all sorts of different scales. So that's where it kind of gets confusing because people just assume like, oh, 1/144 scale is high grade, but it's not. Right. It's not interchangeable. Perfect grade is always 1/60th scale. Obviously, the largest number of parts, largest amount of detail. Usually, some of the older perfect grades maybe don't have as much detail as like some of the newer master grades even, but it's still going to be really comparable to that. I don't have one here to display. And then mega size, like I said, is going to be simple, comparable to a high grade in terms of its complexity, but very large.
Like perfect grade in size, or
bigger than perfect grade.
Bigger.
Yeah. So perfect grade is 1/60. It's 1/48.
Oh, right.
So it's going to be a little bit bigger. And then there's also a few other lines that don't have as many kits. The Reborn 100, that DJ, the blue one on the top, is a Reborn 100. Okay. That's comparable to a high grade, basically just in 1/100 scale.
Okay.
First grade is, I believe, always 1/144 scale, very simple. So even simpler than a high grade. Those are for like really young kids and beginners and stuff. Really super simple kits. And then non-grade, which would be anything that basically isn't labeled with a grade. So these days we don't get any non-grades anymore, but there are a lot of them from the past. Yeah, around. You'll find them in all sorts of different scales. So that's basically that. And then okay, so just talking about some of the tools and terminology stuff, I think you probably know. These are obviously runners or trees. You said sprues, all the same thing. I say runners, so that's what I'm going to say for the rest of this. Nippers, side cutters, or just cutters, clippers, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So let's see, here's my tools I brought here. Here's the ones that I use are just Tamiya.
Okay.
And I probably need to get some new ones. These are like maybe almost 3 years old, so yeah, probably don't cut the best anymore, but still really good quality. And they're like $15, so the price ranges. You can get really super simple, like cheap ones, like $5. They'll work, but obviously it's just you get what you pay for. So getting more expensive ones, they'll last longer, it'll cut nicer.
Yeah, I think this one has like it's still got the wire, but I was gonna say the one that I had, I think it just has like a little metal coil spring or something.
Yeah, but I mean, those work, and depending on kind of your preference of how you remove the nub, you can get by on cheap ones perfectly fine. So it really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that it's best that they have a flat side.
Yeah.
So like using something like wire cutters or something like those, I think might be. Number one, it's going to be annoying that they don't have a spring. That you're going to be having to move them a lot more. But if it's not flat, again, it's depending on your style, how you clean up the nubs. It's going to be more work. We'll get back to that anyway. And then the knife, obviously, is the next most important thing. I use this one, similar to that anyway. It's just Tamiya modeler's knife. I prefer this kind of knife. A lot of people use this kind of knife as well.
Yeah.
I don't like how that blade is straight. So I think this one's a lot more dangerous. The way that I cut with this is actually towards my finger, which is dangerous.
Right.
But
that'll get more of your finger then.
Yeah, for me, I've just never been comfortable. I've tried using a knife like that a few times.
I have one of these now that I use a blanket.
So it's good, and like I like this one because it's got a really nice weight to it. So it's just really comfortable to hold, and the little tab on the handle keeps it from rolling anywhere. which is nice. So when you put it down, it'll just stay there without rolling off your desk. So that's important as well. And then sandpaper or sanding sticks, just like that, paper or sticks like these. Let's find one that's not so worn out. Will serve different purposes for just smoothing the parts or cleaning up nubs. Obviously, if it's a part that's rounded and you're using something rigid like a stick, it's going to flatten that out, so that's not good. So you want to use just paper to keep a rounded edge, and then vice versa. If you have a flat surface, if you're sanding it with this, it's going to round the edges. So you want to use that. So different purposes for that, and all sorts of different levels of grain.
Right.
So obviously, the lower the number is higher the grain, the more it's going to take away. Higher number is going to be less hard. What's the word? Intrusive? That's not right. But anyway, so that's that.
And where did you get your sanding sticks again?
Sanding sticks. Okay, you can buy. These are made by Wave. They're just a modeling supply company. I like these smaller ones. You can get larger ones as well. You can use ones that are made for like nail files, which you can get pretty much anywhere, and those are pretty cheap as well. I've never tried using them, but I wouldn't see what the difference would be really. I mean, it's doing the exact same thing. So you can just get those. Otherwise, there's I can just show you. If you just take a popsicle stick, you can just wrap. If you just use some double-sided tape, you can wrap the sandpaper around the popsicle stick and use double-sided tape, and then you have a sanding stick. Very simple. Again, I've never tried that. I just use the sticks, but you can do that a lot of different ways.
DIY method.
Yeah, sure. You'll just find a way to make it do what you want it to do. But yeah, like emery boards for nails, nail files are good as well. So here's the kit we're going to build, and I think, okay, so we'll get back to the instructions. So let's take this out. Very large. Very difficult to get that off. So everything's going to come, obviously, as you know, in these plastic bags. I've already taken all the rest of the runners out. So first thing you want to do is just organize everything. So what I like to do is take instructions out, polycaps out, because you use the polycaps
Frequently, right?
quite frequently. Usually in almost every step you'll use at least one polycap, so I usually just keep those out. There are some more I'll dig out here momentarily. And then to organize the runners, I've seen a lot of really convoluted ways of how to organize your runners using some contraptions, but really all you need to do is just use your box and just stand the runners up just in alphabetical order. So I'm gonna just give me a minute to do that. Here they were in order, but in order to pack this so that everything fit in the box, I had to mess it up again, so we'll just organize this momentarily here. L, H, I, J. And stickers as well. We're gonna just keep those out. Number one, so they don't get damaged, and two, because they're just out when you need them. E. Any question about any of this? If you've built anything before, should be all pretty familiar. And weapons, I know we can just keep that stuff for later. This one comes with water slides, so if we can get some water, I can show you a bit about how to use those if you want. F. G. Okay, all right. And don't worry about that stuff. You can take the damage it's going to be okay. This I showed you is cool, but we don't need that at the moment, so stick that aside. So, yes, as I said, reading the instructions is, of course, all in Japanese, but you know, we don't need any Japanese to be able to do this. So everything is numbered and lettered.
Some have the color, right?
Yes, kind of nice thing about mega size manuals is that everything's in color.
Oh.
Other ones are not.
Right. Yeah, it's just the black and white.
This one also, like for the step number 1, which is building the legs, it's very. Here's where it might help if you could read Japanese, because these manuals do have a lot of like extra information here.
Yeah.
Just kind of like basic tips. I really don't know why it got so busy here with all of these little tips and stuff. It kind of makes it harder to read the manual, I think.
Yeah, it's a little less zen.
See, when you get to like the rest of it, it's just pretty normal. But for the first step, anyway. But so again, going to be basic. The other thing unique about these kits is that you'll notice, aside from just the runner letter and part number, we also have a small little symbol. So all of the parts are labeled with a symbol as to which part of the mobile suit they go onto.
Oh, okay.
So like head symbol means that that's a part for the head.
Right.
And then like this one has the leg symbol, so it's a part for the leg. Again, don't know how useful that really is, but it is there anyway.
Can't hurt, I suppose.
Yeah. So, just cutting the parts. So, I have to give credit. I borrowed this photo from a friend's blog, Gamera Banrei.
Yeah.
So, him and those Gundam guys are a really awesome resource. So, I recommend their blog for a lot of this. But anyway, so this kit, also, they kind of advertise it as being so that you don't need to use cutters. You can just pull the parts. The parts are designed a way that you can sort of pop them off. But even when it's designed to be that way, I would still never recommend actually doing that. Just cut off the proper way. Then that way you'll be sure not to tear any plastic. So, and here on the manual, this is step 1, building the legs, it'll show you the runners you need. So if you wanted to kind of separate this a little bit, just take the ones you need out, or take the ones you're not going to use into a separate pile or something. You can do that. I never really bother with it, because this is using like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 runners. I mean, it's not really too much of a point to separate those out. And then for construction, I will usually do a few parts. I'll cut out all the parts I need for like a few things at a time. So here it's very basic, just really only a couple parts. We're doing the first step, but then let's just go to a later step, just for example. So here's building the waist unit. Because I know it's really only a handful of parts, I probably just cut out all these parts I need all at once. And just kind of faster than if I just cut out these 2 parts,
put them together.
kind of clean up those nubs, put those together, then go back and add the polycaps, then go back, find this piece, pull that out, clean up those nubs, then go back, find the next piece. It's a lot less back and forth if you just do it all at once.
Right.
But just make sure that that you're not getting stuff lost.
Yeah.
That you know what's going on. Because for example, for the legs, the left and right leg aren't identical. They have parts that are specific for the left or the right. So I think in this case, the kit's simple enough, we'll be fine. But in more complicated kits, if you're putting stuff in the wrong side, it's going to make some problems. So just pay attention to that, basically. Let's cut some stuff out. I'll show you. The manual, when it's for ×2, it usually says just X2, but for some reason they've got it in Japanese here, but it's just saying that you need 2 of them. 2, what does it say? 2 kumi? I don't know. So we're going to be cutting both of those, I believe, at the same time. So you're going to cut a little bit away from the part, leaving some space. And also, A lot of people will recommend cutting from the bottom up. So like you're cutting like this so you can see what you're doing better. For me, it's uncomfortable to hold the nippers that way. So I always just cut like straight down. And I can like still see what I'm doing, so it's fine. We're not going to be able to cut too much of the nub off here because the way the gate is designed, it's a sort of shape like this, then the nub's like really small. So if you try to cut like farther back, your nippers are going to slide down a little bit before they actually cut anyway. So, but you want to try to cut to leave a little bit. So then we can see we do have a little bit of nub there. So we'll have to clean that up. You can clean it up first. If you had a lot of nub on there, just with the nippers, and cut it again a second time. So this is where it's useful to have flat nippers. So like I said, if you don't have flat nippers, you can't really do this step. But I usually don't ever cut a second time anyway. I just use my knife. But these nubs are so small, there's really nothing to cut with that. So put that down. And just sort of cut it a little bit more carefully. Yeah, that's a good point too, is not to try to cut the whole thing off all in one go. If it's a larger nub, this is just like there's barely anything here, so we'll be okay. Other thing to be careful with this is that it's very easy to gouge into there and take some out, so you just have to be careful with it. Because these nubs are running along a flat surface here, it's very easy to just like kind of rest your knife, and you're basically just like sliding the knife across there at an angle that's going to cut off anything that's sticking up. So like that, even I took out a little bit of that, but we can fix that a bit with a sanding stick. And on the edge, is that a hole in there? No, okay. Just to clean that up, and then so it's smooth. Yeah, sure. And I just definitely touch it a lot, so then that's the way you can know it's smooth. Even if it looks smooth, it might not actually be all that smooth, but when you touch it, you can tell that's fine. And this one even is good enough there. Yeah, you could sand that down a little bit. It's easier to just work it with like smaller strips like this. And just sand that a little bit so it's going to be really smooth. Like that. And that's fine. But yeah, like I said, I'll usually cut out a bunch of the parts, all the parts that I need first, and then go and do the nub removal. So just for demonstration's sake, just did that one, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the rest of them now. And be careful you get all of that. Some of the nubs, some of the gates can be very, very large. So on those, you definitely want to make sure you cut far away from the part, because the larger the gate is, the more trouble you're going to have cutting through it, which means there's more of a chance of pulling plastic out. So that's that, and then we also need F210. F runners. F210 is here. Parts like this that are inside, like frame and joint parts, you don't have to be so careful with, because they're not going to be showing. So if your cut is not that clean, no one's ever going to see it. But do still, yeah?
Can it present problems when you're like actually putting the kit together?
Yes.
Parts not fit.
Yes, exactly. So that's where you can run into issues, is if stuff doesn't fit right. So don't be too haphazard with it, but you don't have to be so careful with it. I just want to do these quickly. And in most cases, I would usually, like I said, clean up all of these nubs first before I start putting anything together. But I want to check if this edge where all those nubs are, if it fits inside of here, then I know I don't have to be so careful with sanding those nubs. I can save myself some time. So if they're showing, then I need to be careful, but we can see they're all going to be hidden inside the foot, so I know I don't need to be that careful. So for this bottom of the foot piece, I can just sort of just lop these off pretty simply and don't have to take a lot of time sanding these because they're going to be inside and not affecting the fit at all. Just like that. Didn't do this one yet. Just cutting the main bits off, then I'll sand it. So you said you bought those Star Wars kits, but have you bought a lot of Gundam kits here?
I bought a few. I have 2 SDs. I have like a Burning Gundam, and I've got Char's Zaku, SD, and then I bought some kits when I went to Japan. They're actually back in the States. Back with me, but I'm going home maybe this winter, so I'll probably grab those. I've got like the RX-78 that's from like the giant Gundam in Odaiba, like like modeled after that one.
Sure.
It's specific to that.
In which scale?
It's a, I think it's
is it real grade?
Real
RG?
grade. RG. And then I also have an RG Shard Zaku.
That's the other kit that I bought for my wife.
Yeah.
It's the RG Shard Zaku.
I'm a sucker for Zaku for some reason. I like the moves too.
It's one of my favorite kits.
I was also looking at the Z-Got. I'm trying to think. I've got another kit lying around at home, I think, that I have to put together.
I actually, a few years ago, that RG that you're talking about, the RG Gundam that you bought there, I built that kit actually a few years ago. And then just last week, while we were in Seoul, met up with a friend who was just a fan of my YouTube channel, and he was traveling, and he's from Malaysia, and he was just traveling in Korea and wanted to give me that kit. So I got another one of those recently. So it's cool because the first time I built it was before I was doing anything on YouTube. So I wasn't. It's on my blog, but I wasn't able to ever show it on my channel.
Now you can actually go through it.
Yeah. So let's see. I want to at least just get the legs built quickly before we move on to some other parts here. See, it's kind of confusing how we're supposed to separate the F runner, I guess. F1 and F2. Okay, so we're supposed to put the part on the part while it's still on the runner, which is kind of odd. So that's runner F2. Here. Like that. And then the other one. Means we'll have to watch the manual very closely.
Yeah.
It's going to be doing stuff like that. And then we need a polycap in there as well. 5. There it is. Polycaps, you can just twist and pull off the polycap runner.
Yeah, the plastic is really soft.
Yeah, the plastic is much softer, but then you can still get like some nubs on the polycap as well sometimes. Not all the time, but polycaps are something that you do need to fit very well.
Yeah.
So just pull this one off. If there is any nub, just cut that off, because that is going to be a problem for you. So those are going to be going in to this part. I'm guessing this is our knee joint. Or wait, in the other side. Don't think it matters too much. It's just going to be going together, but we'll go ahead and put that in there. And then we're meant to just put the runners together, which is odd. Like this. But then we still need to cut them off and clean off the nubs. So I don't really know how useful that is, but
I suppose it keeps things aligned.
I guess so. Doesn't really seem all that useful, really, but just to follow the manual, we'll go ahead and do that. It kind of makes it, to be honest, it makes it a little bit more harder to cut some of these nubs. See. Where is this still connected? There you go. So seems a bit not very useful there. But anyway, and then these parts below as well are supposed to be connected. Yes. Which look to be our ankle parts. Pretty sure I could probably build this without the manual at all. It's so simple, but just in case, don't want to forget anything.
All right.
Okay, there's that. And then here's where it shows to use the parts separator this comes with. We've actually got two of them, which you could use in lieu of cutters if you didn't have any, I suppose. We should have tried it, but I wouldn't trust this for taking parts off the runner, like it shows you how to do in the manual. Using this to sort of like pry the parts off the runner. I still wouldn't. I mean, the separator is nice, so like if I needed to separate these parts, then that's good. You can just kind of force it in there, kind of pull it apart like that, but probably not going to use that at all. What we need to do is cut out a few more parts before we clean this up, why don't we? From G, so these F runners, I think we're done with for the moment anyway, so we'll put those back. Mostly some big feet compared to the 144 scale Gundam. Alright, I think we can see. So, pen aligning. I was searching my house for a pen I could use for that, but I couldn't find one. But I do have some of this, which is good. Have you ever used anything like this or done any pen aligning at all?
I haven't done any of the custom painting yet.
This stuff is nice because before I started using this, and I still don't use this 100% of the time, but basically what I was doing is just mixing black enamel paint and enamel thinner, which we will use.
You had a video showing you how to do that.
This is easier though, because it's basically the same thing. It's already mixed. So it comes in different colors. Black, brown, gray. And there's like a dark brown now as well, a fourth one they came out with. And then, I mean, there's loads of different ways to pen a line. You can also pen a line with a mechanical pencil. And cleaning up the panel lining is going to depend on whichever method you use.
Right.
Because this is essentially enamel paint, we're cleaning up with enamel thinner. But like, there's other ways you can do it as well. So it has a brush on the end.
Okay.
So all you need to do is basically just touch it, and it will automatically fill in.
Oh, that is cool.
So there's not very much you really need to do in terms of cleanup. So you can see there's really only a couple spots there that I'll have to clean up, and then like
where like
for the hole here, and on the edges here we can get that. Just go all around it. And then it's getting a little bit low. The color, the reason it comes in different colors is because you should be, of course it's your kit, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
There should be a little bit of thought given to which color you're going to use for different circumstances.
Right. Like, I mean, if the kit was like the model was primarily black, you would use black
Sure.
panel lines, right?
Yeah. Or a lot of people don't like to use black on a really light colored kit anyway. Like this is very, very light color, so black can be very harsh. Yeah. Should give this a little bit of time to dry, but just for comparison, you can see already quite a difference. It really brings out a lot of that detail. Yeah, what I was saying is that a lot of people think that the black on the light color is too dark, so that's why like on something like this you might even try using the gray. Brown will make it look more weathered since it sort of looks like the color of dirt. So if that's what you want, that's an option as well. So Q-tips, just get a bunch of cheap ones. You can get it like at Daiso for like 1,000 won for like 200 of them. You just need a little bit of thinner on there. Will just help you clean this up. I believe you can also, if you're just doing this just on the straight plastic, just using a eraser, like a pencil eraser, works really well too.
Okay.
So you can see just cleaning that up. Just really simple. If you do it enough, you'll take the black out of where you want it to be, which is you'll just practice. And if you do that, then just do it again. It's not really a big deal. But that's pretty much it. And then you'll get like, if this starts to get full, it'll just be like smearing it. Yeah. Or if it's not dry enough, so that's why you want to wait a few minutes for this to dry.
Yeah.
If it's still really wet, it's just gonna just be smearing it rather than like cleaning it up.
Sure.
So you can think of that. You can also use that to your advantage though as well if you want it to look like it's like streaking, like rust streaking. So like I think this one's still probably wet. So if I wanted to look like that's kind of streaking, I can sort of do it at an angle like that, so it looks sort of like some grease or whatever spilling out of there. So you can use that to your advantage at times if you wanted to do something like that. That's the thing about weathering. There's like a million ways to weather and no really right way, just whatever gets you the results you want. So panel lining, so many different ways to do it. And paint. So let's see, I think I was gonna demonstrate on a different kit. So let me grab that DJ. All right, here's what we're gonna use. These momentarily. Three main types of paint are acrylic, enamel, and lacquer, all having different uses depending on what you're doing. Acrylic is probably the easiest to use, I guess. I haven't really ever had, I don't have much experience with it, and I've never had much success with it in the time when I tried to use it. But from what I hear, it's going to be the easiest to hand brush if you're going to be painting like the whole part. You can use acrylic for that. Also, you can use it out of an airbrush, so it's versatile in that way. Easy to use because it doesn't have a strong smell, and you can just, for most acrylic paints, you can just mix it with water, which is easy. You don't have to buy any thinner. The disadvantage is that you have to do a lot of coats with that, and it's not the strongest paint. So that's the thing. Enamel is going to be much stronger, takes a lot longer to dry. It is going to be kind of the thickest of the paint, so you definitely need to thin it down. But it's going to be pretty strong, much stronger. And lacquer is the strongest and probably the most common, can be used again. Lacquer is mostly used out of the airbrush. I think you could hand brush that as well, but I don't think anyone really does. So like this is enamel paint, usually comes in just something like that. Most types of those paints usually come in some sort of small bottle like that, so let's just see. Spray cans use lacquer paint, so anything in a spray can is going to be lacquer based, very strong smell. Don't do it inside. Right. Here's some examples. Primer as well, you need to use primer. It's not 100% necessary to always use primer, but it's always recommended. It's always going to be better if you use primer. So it just helps to paint to stick to the kit, and helps to create a nice flat, smooth surface as well. Yeah. So I think, let me see. So I wanted to demonstrate this. So let's pull off a piece. Instead of pulling off the whole leg, I just want one piece, please. Okay. So if this is our part, okay, well, you just go over there. We don't need to mask any of this. If there was some part that we didn't want painted, there's many different ways to mask something, but we don't need to worry about that at this point. So just going to clip the part, and these are really fancy rods, but you can just make them. Just very cheap ones, just using alligator clips like that. Spraying, primer. Of course, shake it quite a bit. And you want to hold it about like this. Too close, it's going to just be pooling on there. Too much. And farther back, you're just wasting already a lot of paint. One downside to using spray cans is, number one, they're expensive. Number two, you waste a lot of paint because it's just spraying all over the place. Yeah, it's not a lot of control. Very easy to use, obviously, because you don't have to worry about the airbrush. All of that sort of thing can be very technical, but it can be not the best. If you're doing a lot of kits, if you just want to try painting, and you just need to buy a couple cans, it's cool, but... And with primer, it doesn't need to be really perfect. So usually one coat is enough, like that. And that's it. I just wanted to show just one part. But then we need to let that dry for a while, so I'm just going to set that here. I hope that smell doesn't bother you. No. I said not to do it inside, but...
I can't really breathe right now anyway. Like I've got
congested
school plague or something.
It does stink really bad, though. Anyway, hopefully no one notices. So I'll come back to that. Hand painting, there's a lot of different ways to do hand painting with the different types of paint. I'll show you just a little bit of hand painting with enamel. I use it for painting small details on the parts. So we'll come back to that. And then airbrushing, of course, is the most expensive, most complicated, but it's the best result. You have the most control, control not only of just the physical paint spraying, but of what kind of paint you want to use and different kind of techniques and stuff that you can do. It's the best thing to use, really, but of course getting into it can be kind of intimidating and expensive. But you just need to, basically, just if you decide it's something that you really want to do, it's basically three really expensive things you need to buy. It's just the airbrush itself, a compressor, and some sort of spray booth. But I don't know if you saw my video about making a spray booth. You could just make one.
I saw like the DIY spray booth.
Making an airbrush or a compressor might be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it seems like
you wouldn't be able to. And then, of course, you need a lot of paints and other sort of smaller supplies, but those are going to be the three big things that you need. But you're definitely going to have to be spending a lot of money as well on just the paints, and then everything else you need, thinner, and I don't know what else, just anything else. This kind of stuff is not, these are expensive, these ones that I'm using, but the ones that I use for my airbrushing are just cheap, just the wooden skewers and alligator clips. And then for the base, I just made it out of cardboard. So very, very simple there. And then, of course, there's a million ways to modify and customize using millions and millions of tools and many, many techniques. Of course, I'm not going to get too much into that now, but like when we were talking about just modifying like this kit, the nice thing about these mega-sized kits is that they're very big, so very easy to work with. One thing we can talk about as well is seam lines. So I didn't bring the tools to do that because it's a little bit more complicated, and it's easy. It's not as easy to do just like in an hour. It takes more time. But like on these parts, we have this seam line between the two parts going in the front and back. We want to get rid of that, and how we can do that is just by using a mix of either glue and or putty. Because these parts fit together really well, hopefully we would be okay with just using glue. Wouldn't need too much putty. The back here, possibly because they don't fit perfectly flush. The problem is that this gray part fits inside of there. So if you glue this together, then that's stuck in there. That is where you have to be doing masking. So basically, what you could do, what I would do, you can also modify the part to make it so that this isn't stuck in there, that you can take it in and out. Like probably if you wanted to cut out this bottom part so that you just feed this up through the bottom. And then put it on here, it'd be fine. It'd be stuck in there. But this wouldn't be difficult to mask, so I'll probably just mask it. Basically, we'll probably paint this part gray first. So you just have that. And then you don't have to worry about getting gray on this part that's supposed to be green. Because you're just going to repaint that over later. So spraying gray. And you can do this just with this too. Again, it's not as much control, but it's not difficult. Anyway, spraying this part gray, then just masking that with masking tape, just wrapping around that gray part just to cover it up, and then spraying this part all green. It's pretty simple. So not really anything too difficult there after you've got rid of that seam. It's just basically using glue and then sanding, and if there's still a bit of a line there, you need to use some putty in there. There's a lot of different kinds of putty, but just basic putty dries in a few hours. Giving it more time obviously is going to be a little bit better if you can, just to dry really well, and then just sanding it flat, and that's it. So let's see, if this part is dry enough, we'll spray some paint on here as well. I think it's going to be okay, so let me bring this back. I do want to eventually paint this kit fully, but just for the sake of demonstration, you can just paint a part. You can always strip the paint off. And with painting, you are going to want to do more than one coat. Yeah. So like that's enough for one coat. Obviously, it's not fully covered, but it's enough just.
Get the base.
Yeah, just some base, and then a second coat will make sure everything is covered really well. So just set that aside again for a few minutes to dry. Lacquer paint dries pretty quickly. Again, it depends on the environment. Again, though, if it's really humid, not only will the humidity affect just the spray of the paint, but the drying time as well, of course.
You said something in a video like Asia or Korea can be particularly tricky in the summer.
Right. Humidity. It's very, very humid. Japan as well. So, I mean, a lot of places in the world, I suppose. So yeah, we'll come back to the painting, but for now there's this about, and I'm planning to do a video on this. I've had the plan for like a month, but I haven't gotten around to it. Choosing the right Gunpla for you. So obviously there's like a million different kits out there, and you know which one you want to choose. I think it basically comes down to 3 points: the price, availability, and the design. So the design really is probably the most important. If it's something you like, you're not going to want to build something that doesn't appeal to you design-wise. And then price and availability is just going to be a factor after that. So like, say online you see some kit that you really like, so you know you want to get that kit, but you got to know if it's even available where you are or where you can get it, and then if the price is in the price range of how much you're willing to spend for that. So those are going to be basically the things. The difficulty of the kit, I wouldn't say you really need to figure that in to whether the kit is right for you. I personally don't think so. I think most people would say that like you want to get like an easier kit to start off with.
Sure.
But I really don't think that that's really true, because the tools and the steps are all the same for no matter what. If you're building a perfect grade, you're doing the exact same thing, like following the instructions, cutting the pieces you need, and putting them together. And it's the same if you're building a high grade or a master grade or real grade. Of course, something like a real grade or master grade, perfect grade, is going to be more complicated. But I mean, the steps and the tools are the same. So really, you don't need to worry about that all that much, I think.
Yeah, and for me, like what I've been doing, because I haven't done any custom painting or anything yet, like I've gone for real grades just because, I mean, it's about right, the size for like what I need right now. But also like they are a little more complicated, so they look a little better just out of the box and assembled than like a high grade.
Sure.
So like
exactly, that's, I think, one thing that's really great about the RG line is that they look really good just out of the box, and come with just loads of stickers and stuff too that you can put on instead of decals if you want. So yeah, the real grade line is definitely like, I think a lot of people wouldn't recommend a real grade to a beginner because of its complexity, but I think because of the kind of results that you can get, maybe makes it a good kit to recommend to someone. Other thing again is don't spray a lot. Just spray in quick bursts like this, like I'm doing, and just make sure you've got some pretty nice coverage. So that's good, I think. So we'll set this here. When that's dry, then I'll show you about just doing some hand painting. So I have this color, and there's you will need a few things. Obviously, since we're using enamel paint, we need enamel thinner. You don't have to buy Tamiya products. Just we're living in Korea, where we have the luxury of being able to get these products for pretty cheap. So you might as well. You know that the quality is going to be good. And then a small brush. This one is 0.9 millimeters, but I have actually cut it a little bit, so it's even smaller for like really small detail stuff. It's very useful. So the paint, you just shake. And then I just use the paint in the cap instead of having to like dip your brush down into there or pour it out into something. You just got a little bit of paint there you can use. And then here, should probably give this a little bit more time to dry. But, oh yeah, it's definitely still a bit wet. We can just experiment on here anyway. But we do need this as well. Some thinner for just cleaning the brush. If you're going to be doing more painting or using more than one color, especially you just need to clean the brush between coats. Just have that. So then say I'm like using this and then I want to switch to another color.
Yeah,
you just clean it here, then switch to another color. Or just when you're finished, you need to clean the brush anyway. So that's why this comes in handy. You can use these metal cups that are like specifically designed for model stuff, or just anything. Like if you had just the top of this bottle, you could just use that, or whatever, the bottom of an old water bottle. And there's really not any real trick to it, just painting carefully. But let's say I wanted to paint that small little detail there on the front. You just need a little bit of paint. The other thing about painting really small parts is that I'm not doing this all that carefully, but kind of intentionally. Try to just, rather than like pushing the paint where you want it, just sort of let the paint settle where you want it to be, if that makes sense. So a lot of the times, if you're painting like something really small, with such a small amount of paint, you just kind of want to just like drop it on there, basically. This, because I'm trying to fill a negative space, I'm brushing it around inside there. But I'm making it a little bit rough intentionally, just for the purposes of demonstration there. So then say we're done. So just clean the brush. And don't leave your thinner in there like for a few hours is fine, but if you just like leave it in there overnight or a couple days, it's gonna rust this and then it will be useless. So just clean up and try to keep things organized and clean as much as possible, I guess. Just put that there. So done with that. Now, yeah, so there's some paint around the edges.
Yeah, it kind of slipped out with the...
Yes, so that's fine, because then we can use our thinner and Q-tips the same like we did for panel lining on here. Because basically, think about it like lacquer is the it's like the hardest, then enamel, and then acrylic. So like acrylic is weaker on top of lacquer, so I can clean this up
without damage.
Yeah, and so it'll clean up the acrylic, it'll clean up the enamel, but it won't bother the lacquer paint at all. If you do it enough, it will.
Yeah.
But just
for the light cleanup,
gentle cleaning like that, you can clean that up very easily. That's why I like using enamel paints for like small details like this. So doing like the main color in lacquer, then these small details you can just do with this. I should have not used that, but okay. And yeah, just should have given this enamel a little bit more time to dry, but hopefully it'll be okay. The lacquer as well should have had a little bit more time, because I see I'm taking a little bit of it off. But you can get the idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, aside from some of the lacquer chipping off there, it's
still
cleaner, and now the silver is filling in the shape evenly. There's not like any rough edges around the outside. Again, can be cleaned up a little bit more because it's silver. You can see if you look at it like the reflection,
you can see
some smudging around the outside. But again, if we're working with like ideally where all the paint's dry and you've given it enough time to cure and dry as it should, then you're not going to really have that problem. But just for demonstration, anyway. You get the idea. And that's pretty much there. Now we have a red front of the leg. Try to find one that I know I'm not going to want to use. I will use the Bandai logo because that's easy. So first of all, be really careful you don't get this paper wet, because then all your water slides are going to be stuck to the paper. So just make sure you're using a very sharp knife also, because you want to be able to cut it. All these decals are pre-cut, so if you look at like in the light, you can see a little bit of an edge around the decals. I don't know how well you can see that.
A little bit.
So that means that you don't need to cut like really, really closely. You can just kind of cut near, like that's going to be fine. Then tweezers. You don't have to be curved ones like this, but it is kind of useful. And you just want to dip it in the water, and for maybe 5 to 10 seconds, not that long, you should be able to see the color of the paper change behind it. So I'll show you here in a second. So, and then we'll just set that there for a moment. I usually just like to, after dipping them, just set them down on my mat to just let them continue to soak for a minute. Then, let's see if you can see the difference in the blue color. So it's kind of changed color now, so I know the paper is well saturated. That's good. And it's fine now, so let's say we wanted to stick it on the back of this part here, on the back of the foot. Now, there's different ways to do this. I do it sort of incorrectly. How you should kind of do it is push the decal off of here with a Q-tip. You can even make a Q-tip a little bit wet. It's maybe good too. I find that difficult because it's hard to like hold everything at once.
Yeah, you need like more than 2 hands.
Yeah, or you can kind of do it like this. I'm sorry, you can't see what I'm doing, but
assuming the part is large enough to do that. Right?
Yeah, luckily this is a large part, so we can do it with some pretty easily. And then you've still got some time to move that part around. Like maybe I don't want it right directly on that seam. I want it like down here, and adding a little bit of water to making that wet again will let you move it a little bit more gently. And then once we've got it where we want it, like that, looks straight enough. Maybe like that. Yeah. Then that's it. Very easy. There are other solvents that you can use. I didn't bring them with me, but there's like Mark Softer and Mark Setter.
Yeah,
I talked about those before. So just to recap that, Mark Softer is just, as the name implies, it just softens the decal. So basically, like if we wanted to put a decal like on this part where it's really round, right. Putting some Mark Softer on there will help basically melt the decal around that surface.
Well, if we wanted to, would you use it if you wanted to melt it into like a panel?
Yes.
Like say there's an inset panel.
Exactly. Like over this like really thick, deep line here, or even a smaller one as well, it'll do the same thing. But like this one, if we had like some decal, it was like some like line going across here. Right. Yeah, you could use that, and that would sink it down into there. So yes, like that. And then a Mark Setter, again, as the name implies, sets the decal, which basically it acts as a glue. Yeah. Just hold the decal on there more strongly. This now, it's stuck on there. It's not going to come off on its own, most likely, because it's like Bandai's water slide decals are good quality. So it's probably not going to come off just on its own. Like over the course of a few years and like not good weather conditions, it might peel off. Right. But I mean, obviously it has adhesive in there already. Using Mark Setter, it basically will act as a glue to help set it. And then once everything's all done, using top coat on everything just is like even more to seal everything on there. I didn't bring any top coat, but that's what you're going to want to use, once you're done with everything. Yeah, if you're doing anything, even if you're only doing panel lining, it's still a good idea to use top coat because it'll just give everything a uniform look to it, and it gets rid of like the shiny plastic look of it. So, like, if you were going to do nothing else, like not even panel lining, just assembling everything, at the very least, I would say spray it with top coat, because then at least it gives it, if you're going matte, it gives it a nice matte look all around. Or if you want it to be like glossy, you can use the glossy top coat as well. So, like, at least doing that will not make it look so much like a toy.
Yeah.
And then, so like top coat would be maybe like the first most important thing. Second, panel lining. And then, as far as stickers go, like, this kit doesn't have any stickers for me to demonstrate, but we have foil stickers, which usually you're either going to use or not use, depending on what they are. But I mean, like the Bandai stickers, like the stickers that came, like I told you, with the Star Wars kits, those stickers, let's see if I have a piece of paper or something to write. I don't want to write on that. I can write on this cardboard, fine. It doesn't really matter about that. So, like, say, here's the sticker itself. Yeah. It's on a square piece. And then, like, the actual design is maybe, like, some, like, triangle design. Like that, like some warning label or something that you're sticking on the kit. Yeah. When you stick that on, this edge is going to be visible and not look good. So what you can do is with your knife, you'll just cut it as close to the actual design as possible. So you want to cut it like really, really close, like that, and even like here, and then like that, here, and like that. That way,
the excess of the sticker.
Cutting away the excess of the sticker, right? There's still going to be an edge, but it won't be as visible. With water slides, it's nice because they're so thin, you can't see really any edge on that at all, which is nice.
Looks like
it looks like it's painted on, which is how it's supposed to look. You can see it a little bit, but again, top coat helps with that as well. Top coat will also help eliminate the edge of water slides, just by adding a very, very, very thin layer of clear on top of that. Will help even that out. So yeah, with stickers, that's one reason why I don't like stickers, is because, number one, if you don't cut it, you have this edge which doesn't look good. Yeah. Or if you do cut it, it's just a lot of work cutting the stickers like that. And then even doing that, the result is still not as good as just using water slides. Yeah. So dry transfers are, again, another story. Yeah, I don't have any to demonstrate, and it doesn't sound like any of the kits that you have them.
They have.
So that's pretty much it that I can say for all the basics. Again, if you've seen the videos, it's pretty much stuff that I've already covered. I do have this, though, that I haven't talked about in any videos. I can sort of demonstrate if we bring this back. There's a lot, as I said, there's like a million different ways to weather, and a lot of different weathering tools and supplies you can get. This is just one modeling Tamiya weathering master. There's different sets. So this one is set C. It has rust, gunmetal, and silver. Okay. So it's good for robots, kind of in that way. There's other ones that you can get that have like dirt and sand kind of colors. This one basically just looks like makeup.
Oh, yeah.
And has like the same kind of applicator. And you're just gonna like use the brush, just brush a little bit, and then just like go around on some of the edges. See, it's hard to see because it's black on black. I can't tell how much is on there. Just to go around on some of the edges like that. Let's see. It's brand new, so I think I need to soften it up a bit. But you can see it's just adding like a little bit of a darkness around the edge on there. So again, depending on the color here, I mean, you're going to want different effects. If we wanted to use this, should have brought some more paper towels to clean that up a bit. Like if we wanted to add some rust, like we can take some of this to make it look like there's some like rust coming out of this vent here. So we can just like brush some of that in there. Now that doesn't look very good, but then we can use the brush to kind of clean that up a bit, or the other clean side to make it not so pronounced. Hard to see what I'm doing, but something like that. Again, just on this blue plastic, it doesn't really look that good, but you can see how you could apply it to something else. Like that. And we can even use a Q-tip in here as well. Anyway, it's something.
Sure. Yeah,
it's not quite right, but
you'd have to build it up.
Exactly. That's the other thing too. It's just about building layers of weathering. Weathering's something that just takes a lot of time. But anyway, just these sets exist and have many, many different uses for something like that. It can be good. A lot of this stuff you can do in different ways as well. You can recreate the same kind of effects with different tools. If we wanted to make it look like that toe was like a little chipped there, so it's like some metal just showing through, like that. So it's kind of cool, and you can do that just onto the straight plastic or once it's painted. Pretty much it. Everything I brought today.